All right, crew, welcome to this episode of the Outrun Show. I am Travis.
I'm Justin.
Jesse.
All right, today we are talking about groundbreaking. We broke ground on the new gym, gold shovels, hard hats, and all.
Yeah.
There were some shenanigans. We are talking about, our training topic today is how to take a rest day. We feel like people need to know that.
Or a rest week, or a 2 weeks, or a
vacation.
or maybe
How to take a vacation. How about
How to
that?
take a vacation. All right, and by that we mean from training. Sometimes we need that. And then we are talking about our favorite feature in a gym. If we could have a gym, any gym, what would the majority of it be made up of? What feature, what setup would we have? And more on this episode of the Outrun Show.
No, we're not getting saxophone.
No?
I don't think so.
Did you guys know that David plays the saxophone? Like our
David?
coach. Yes.
Really?
And he plays the saxophone. And I've been talking to him, trying to get him to play like a synth song with a sax in the gym.
David is pretty mysterious.
He is mysterious. Right? Tall, gingerly, and mysterious.
Yeah. He kind of just laughs at whatever you're talking about, but never reveals
Right.
his own jokes.
You know,
has David been playing us this whole time?
I think so. I think he's really 35. David is clearly just graduated. He's in college now. He's moving out. One of our coaches for the first time. You guys can check out what's his handle. It's Outrun _
David _Outrun.
David _ Outrun. And he's a monster.
He's a hidden giant for sure.
He is.
Both literally and figuratively, because he's very tall. But
just
he's
kills
like,
it.
yeah, he's super talented, but like doesn't flaunt that. It's not very vocal about it, and just kind of does his own thing.
And he's very, like, you can't, one of the best things about him is he is one of those, like, bigger guys. I mean, he's younger now, so he's not super, super intimidating, but when he gets older, he'll be a big guy. And he's just really hard to get upset. Like, he works really well with young kids, and they'll just, like, kind of tug on him or whatever, or poke at him, and he's just like, all right, guys, let's come over here and do this. Yep, that's cool. All right, come over here. Like, he's very mellow, and he also plays the saxophone.
That's why he's so mellow.
I think that might is. I think that's it. It's therapy. Is it cause or correlation right there?
Yeah.
So anyway, hopefully we would have some saxophone action at some point in the gym. We broke ground on the new gym officially. Now there was a hole in the ground, but this was the actual ceremony that we had not. I've not been a part of. I've been in ribbon cutting ceremonies, but I've never been in a groundbreaking ceremony where they like put out dirt and you throw the dirt in the air, which we got to do.
Yeah.
Never been a part of either. It was a very unique experience. In fact, I was telling Carly, she got mad at me. I was telling you actually earlier that
your wife.
We had the first date on the calendar, right? And I told her about that, and then it needed to be rescheduled. And the reschedule happened with we got maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks heads up, so enough. But I totally spaced it, had it on my calendar, didn't inform Carly about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then she found out from Candy that it was in 2 days. And she comes into my office and she's like, hey, so we need to talk. And I was like, okay. I'm in the middle of a session and I was like, what's up? And she's like, so I hear there's the groundbreaking for the new gym on Tuesday. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's totally right. And I wasn't faking it. I definitely was like, oh, that is this week. It's Sunday.
It did come up fast.
It came up fast. And she's like, so am I invited? And I was like, of course you're invited. I of course had to backpedal and I did apologize. But genuinely, I had completely forgot about the event. Not because I wasn't excited about it, but just because I have so many things on my calendar.
We have a lot going on right now. I'm not going to lie. It is nonstop, rapid fire.
Yeah, and so it just got added in my calendar, and I was like, I literally wake up in the morning, and my calendar is like, you got this, 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 and this. And I'm like, oh, cool, that's what I have today. I don't ever look at my calendar the night before or for the week ahead and be like, what do I have this week? That's just not my style. So I had to apologize profusely and be like, yes, no, you're there. But also, I'm not a big ceremony guy. For me, I'm I just want to get in there and I just want to do cool stuff. I'm ready to go. I'm an action guy. So I wasn't super looking forward to it because I didn't know what the ceremony part was going to be. But I had a blast. I thought it was super fun.
Cool.
I don't think we knew what to expect. We had a loose idea. So they asked us to come, and so they did a groundbreaking, but we saw construction equipment, machinery, heavy machinery, and we were like, well, must flip. If, gotta do
They
stuff.
suggested it first, didn't they? They wanted us to flip off.
Oh, they said it
Yeah.
jokingly, and then we said, of course, we'll flip off of construction equipment. And once they found out that they thought that we were calling our bluff or something, and once we started getting the calls from the organizers, and they're like, well, we talked to the insurance company, and really this has to be, and this was just hilarious. There was like a concern from the superintendent and from the guys, because I think that they thought that we were just like some YOLO coaches that were gonna come out and be like and just jump off stuff.
Just huck and
they
hope.
didn't, huck and hope. I don't think they realized that.
Did a little huck and hope, but not much.
And there were some beautiful pictures that came out of that.
They were, but yeah, no, they were like, well, we don't know if we can do that, and we were like, don't worry, like we're all independently covered. If it's under the name of Outrun, we're good for events like this. We have insurance specifically for these kinds of things.
And if you guys do stuff like that, USPK has some affiliated insurance. So if you look up the USPK and join that nonprofit, which we're a part of, we're a Keystone member of, they have some insurance offerings that are really manageable through for even individuals and individual
That's
coaches.
what an individual going to train parkour.
Yeah, you can train parkour. You could, with that insurance, you can train outside and you're covered. You can train as a coach, and you can coach people.
I didn't know that.
That's huge. It's huge because when we started and had to shop insurance, that was a pain, right? Like having not only to explain what we did, but then give examples of it, and they were like, that looks like you're just asking for a claim, right? We're like, no, like this is a legitimate thing. So to have that sort of an offering that's like with a company, you could say, with a company that understands what we do as an industry, that's huge.
And that's and then the other, so while we're talking about dad advice here, the USPK insurance, and then also places like Aflac and Allstate offer something that's just a general accident insurance, and it pays out per injury. So I'm not suggesting that people get the insurance, right, and then care less about their injuries. But I see a lot of athletes who maybe aren't getting x-rays when they should, or aren't getting treatment when they should, when they've been outside training and have an injury. And that's very affordable, like $20 to $40 a month. And you've got something that pays cash when there's an injury. For example, if you were like, post up and you're training outside the park, you post up and you do something to your wrist, right? There's a dollar value for broken wrist. And if you have to go and use a doctor to get an x-ray, there's a dollar value for the x-ray. So you're at least going to sort of get...
At least mitigating your costs.
Yeah. And if you're somebody who's like, I know a lot of people are like, I'm not going to get insurance, whether that's, Affordable Care Act stuff or whatnot. Having that type of insurance for athletes makes way more sense than sort of, the traumatic stuff.
Yeah, because you're healthy, right? You don't have to worry about like congestive heart failure.
You wouldn't
more
think,
crazy.
right?
Of course you would hope not. But really for athletes, most likely what's going to happen is an injury, right? And that's where it's going to matter for you. So.
Yep.
But anyways, enough insurance talk, because then we'll delve into politics.
Right. We won't talk too much about insurance. So through dirt, we flipped off of some machinery.
So do we get the name of it? Backhoe?
No, there was not a backhoe. The backhoe actually is like the unit that has the driver, and on the back there's like a hoe. That's why it's backhoe.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what that machine was.
Arm scooper thing.
Yep, it's what you imagine. Giant excavator. Excavator. There you go. Giant excavator.
Did you just look that up though?
That's what I thought it was.
That's
Yeah,
yeah, in case you haven't known, we've never worked heavy machinery like that before.
No.
Been on plenty of construction sites, but not as a worker.
No, yeah, exactly. And in case you didn't know, we're talking about the new gym that we're building, and so again, timeline for that's the end of first quarter in 2021. All right, so favorite part about that? Golden shovels, flips, hard hats, having everybody around. The mayor was there.
I know. I think it was just cool just to be with like what seemed like the who's who of Fort Collins, and to kind of just be like stepping our foot in that crowd and sharing a moment with people who do big things around Fort Collins.
Yeah.
I think that was
City.
like, you know, I don't think our gym was like this huge thing to anyone else, but like it's just cool that we're sharing a moment that's super special to us, and then we're around other people who have similar moments like that. And yeah, that was just my favorite part, sharing the moment with bigger fish.
Yeah, with the movers and shakers of the city, right? Like being able to be like, wow, like our project is obviously special to us, but to them, they're also like, your project's cool to us too. And I was like, they like lend some validity to the years of hard work that we spent on this project alone,
right?
Which feels like 99% of it has been just paper and conversations rather than any sort of action, you know. So it lended some spice to that. You were like, oh, this is cool. Other people appreciate our work too.
And I think we were there in part 2 to let those guys know we're here and we're honest about who we are and who we're going to be, and they could tell by our behavior that this is what they're getting. Obviously, we have some etiquette around things, but letting them know this is a parkour gym. I mean, it's here and it's in the town. It's embedded now in the industry of the city. I think that's different when we oftentimes feel like we're taking up space that's hand-me-down space as athletes, or we're not welcome in spaces is a big thing. But to do what we can to be known and be out and be open about the movement and what we're doing, and not have to pretend it's something else, like getting stopped on campus and people like, what are you doing? CrossFit. Right. Or we do burpees, right? So it's the opposite of that. It's like, maybe we'll have our own security and they kick people off if they aren't doing parkour.
They're like, you guys with Outrun? No, we're not.
Yeah,
get out of here.
Do some jumps and get out of here.
We don't. We don't want that either. But
movement security.
We do want. I would love to have a moment, and I'm sure somebody out there has already experienced it. But where a security officer's like, "Hey, you guys doing parkour?" And you're like, "Yeah," and you're like, "Yeah, my son goes to Outrun. We love what you guys do, just can't do it here." Which is a pretty common answer, right? Like, we think what you guys do are really awesome. You just can't do it here. And maybe that'll shift where. Now that they understand that we're an actual business that carries actual, insurance, and we're legitimate and we're not just a bunch of hooligans, maybe that perception will change a little bit around the liability, for each individual business.
I think it's just people seeing different stuff and being like, there's the riffraff. Well, if you own the property, then
a little harder to argue.
Right, you can't keep them off. Favorite part. I think that answer that. You gonna do with that?
I did.
You did.
Did you?
Did you? Good. Yeah, I answered it. All right.
Also, it was pretty cool. Yeah, to go deeper into that tangent, where you're always looked down on for doing flips, and it was weird to have these people who were project developers and builders, and they're like, no, we need you to do the flip on our stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. And they were like, no, we need you to do it this time around.
Yeah.
Like,
we need a picture of it too. We need to record it. Like that was interesting, and having people like cheer about it, because normally they was like, get out there. So
yeah, and getting the press
was
attention
cool.
was good too. I thought it was great. We had one reporter, or one of the reporters that was there, like had a very reporter look. Did you guys see that guy?
And the little notepad.
He had his little notepad out, and he had his hat on, and it was just literally out of like
detective or a
Cora,
journalist?
right? He comes over and he's like, Team Outrun. So now that you're on the scene, what are your plans for the future? And he's like, can I get your names? Does the avatar have a comment? Right? Like it felt like that because he had his little like hat on and that checkered like suit jacket with the notepad out and just like the glasses and scribbling down, and I was like, that's funny.
Yeah, it was very picturesque journalist for sure.
Yes, it was. Yeah, so that was fun and funny. It was fun to play through that too, because a lot of people might take stuff like that too formally and seriously. And when we do this project, what we continually run into is contractors and partners and people who are working with us who just really get obsessed with what we're doing and excited about it, and then they want to research it on their own time, and they love working on it, which is super cool.
Yeah.
And I think being able to enjoy this, it's awesome.
Oh yeah.
The topic of, now that we're talking about building stuff, so we have to meet so many demands when you build a gym, and we're trying to do it right. But as individuals, if there was going to be an abundance of one sort of setup or feature in the gym, what would it be?
So we were already talking about this. Mine's an 8-foot bar and a 6-foot box next to each other. I could live off that. I think if I really wanted to be picky, I'd add another 6-foot box on the other side of the bar, so that I could just and just back and forth. That's all. There's just such little impact on Lachey and Lachey Pries that
if they're done right.
Yeah, and you can just do them forever. Like I wonder how long I could do that until one day I jumped to the bar and my arms just ripped off, and they'd stay there. Like
I'm pretty sure you could do that till the day
forever,
you die.
right?
Yeah, you could
Assuming you maintain proper maintenance of that soft tissue. Yeah, you could do that till the day you die.
Right. You see those old dudes in China and this may, when we talk about people who've, sort of tested things and whatever, this may bode well for calisthenics, is when you see those old dudes in China, like 70s, 80s, and they just kind of like look old and then they go and they just do a one-arm shin, and you're like, huh. I mean, you don't see that with Olympic lifting.
It's true.
Yeah.
A lot of impact.
A lot of impact on that. And gymnastics is not common to see people do flips at that age, but that just may be a numbers thing, right? Like, it's not been prioritized. We may have lost that group of...
Well, it's also easier. Not that the one-arm chin-up is easier than any of these other fields, but it's easier to maintain, right? Because
it's a strength.
It's a strength thing, and it doesn't require impact, and you just need something to hang from, right? Also, as you get older, you tend to drop in weight. So if you can just maintain a base level of strength that you had when you got your OAC, it'll actually get easier for you.
Yeah.
Because you just weigh less. Not to diminish the accomplishment of an 80-year-old guy who has a skill that, I don't. So there's that.
Yes. That it's so cool. So you would have something like 5,000 square feet of open space, and then just all steel concrete.
Certainly could.
And then you have in the center of it is just like that.
And then maybe one little platform.
And one more platform.
1 2-foot, platform.
And so what would you do on that? You jump.
That one's for the more orbit style stuff.
You flip off some stuff.
You need a platform where you can break dance on top of, but then flip off of.
Okay. So you do a little break dance on top.
12 by 12 platform.
Yeah, I think I think 10 by 10 was my
10 by 10? Oh, that's pretty tight.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if there's nothing around it, it can be shorter, right? You could do it.
That's true.
4 by 4 if there's no walls connecting to it. So.
And so then you would you do a little dance, do a little
Do
shake,
a little
flip off boxes. Have fun tonight.
Yep.
Colin, I'm gonna adjust this. Am I still in? If I sit right here.
Oh. But yeah,
So there's a little bit.
I think it's just that I just need Lachey's to, boxes that are not above 80% of my effort.
Okay.
If I gotta try really hard for my Lachey's, they defeat the purpose of how relaxing Lachey's can be.
They are very therapeutic.
Yeah.
What's the term? Cathartic. Right? Like it's just
satisfying.
Just going through the motion. It's just like it just stress gets left behind as you swing.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
Very
like
primal.
to imagine I'm getting taller the more I swing.
Oh,
it's too
it's
late
like
for
to be up high and you're like, look where I landed.
Oh no, I meant
12
the
foot clear.
swing.
I meant the
The
swing. You're
forces.
stretching.
Oh, it's stretching, or so you're like landing higher than other things. Very, very
No,
cat
our,
of you. Back to your spirit.
Our
animal.
bones are far too dense, and it's far too late in our life for any sort of expansion.
Expansion at that level, right? Jess, what about you? Like you got a gym.
Speaking of cathartic swinging, it's bars for me.
Mm-hmm.
Bars, and I would take a couple of floating platforms. So
Ooh.
like those 4x4s that just kind of attached. Essentially, if you had a 4x4 box.
We were talking about Mikhail.
Huh?
Floating platforms.
Yeah. What about him?
He wants them, and we didn't tell. He didn't tell us.
Yeah,
We
so
did the
we've
design.
conscripted for our new gym. One of our secrets is we've
You guys would
conscripted.
never sign off on that.
Now
for
we gotta
children.
go. Now we gotta go tell him.
No,
It's
you
fine,
don't.
it's
You
fine.
don't. You don't have to tell them. And I
So-
intentionally didn't say that for a reason because I don't want to make the project more complicated.
So we have, in order to make sure that the project is super awesome and spicy, we've conscripted a architect from Copenhagen, from Denmark, to help with the gym feature design, to take our training experience and our own ideas and visions, but then also have some folks work on it who, it's just sometimes it feels like Europe has a sort of unlimited budget for civil projects. Like I look at some of those
Yeah.
spaces and I'm like,
All of the
man.
jump gyms. Yeah.
I mean, America, it's like if you want to build anything,
You
it
gotta
has to
pay
be
for it
enterprise that does it, right?
Yeah.
Like you gotta be a bootstrap startup. You gotta be a business that makes money. And then you can build and explore with features. But in Europe, they're like, let's just build $1 million park in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
Can
I
we
mean,
make out,
I like.
Mikhail's
Yeah,
side?
we can.
Okay, and then
Okay.
Jesse can jump back to his jump platforms.
But yeah, since you sidetracked me, yeah, no, I think like just bars all over the place with enough space for like full swings, and then an area of like where they're 6 feet apart so that you can get some like closer like knee hooks or stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, yeah, I want bars, I want lache prees, I want places I can hang and climb and.
So you want the bar? Do you want the bars set up 6 feet apart, not the platforms necessarily?
I want the bars in one section. I want them kind of 6 feet apart so that they're a little closer and more dense. But for the most part, I want them all at least 8.5 feet apart, so that you have room for big swings.
Yeah, that's effort.
But why
I like
floating platforms?
The floating platforms, because sometimes you do want to get up and stop. Like sometimes you do want to swing to a platform and do something cool. And I do have a little bit of like stylistic nature to me, and it's not. There is some style that you can do on a bar, but there's not a ton. Like I want some platforms to be able to do some more unique.
So
movements.
you want like a brutalist tree canopy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gibbons
Exactly.
of the future.
Yeah, exactly. Urban Gibbons.
Urban Gibbons.
Exactly. So that would make me happy.
So the reason I like the platform idea that you're talking about is because transitional space, even if they were like 7 feet off the ground or something like that, and even if they were like maybe a triangle or like a 3 by 2 or something, like triangle or something like that, you could then do some of the like gathers or plyos like in between your bar swing setups, and if those were sparsely done. The only thing I don't like about the floating platforms is there's no option to like cat that. You're on it, and then you're on top of it, or you're not, and if you miss it, that's a hot mess.
Yeah, I can't. A total floating platform with no walls around the edge, I feel like is pretty hard to use. But if it's got like parallel
2
walls
or something.
or a corner
Yeah.
with walls, yeah, that's pretty fun.
And then you got some overhanging on one side, but on the side you have it just. So that's
Yeah,
cool.
but if you have your wall, then you can't swing on the bar.
Mm.
Blocks you. That's why I like the floating platform, because you can still swing under it.
Under it.
You swing under it.
Yeah.
You literally want a floating platform.
Well, no, like if you think about a
physics
4x4 platform,
suspended from the ceiling,
or a 4x4 bars.
Okay.
A 4x4 like welded set of bars, and then you have a platform with 2 hooks on each side, or 4 hooks depending on the width, and it sits on top of the bars. You still have gaps where you can grab the bar, because the platform sits like that above the bar, so you can still swing underneath it. It's like scaffolding, just less bolty and knobby. Like the scaffolding you see like when you walk through like a big city, and they have it going over the sidewalk, so that construction debris doesn't kill somebody. Right? Like those ones, they always have the exposed bar that the scaffolding sits on top of, and you can. It's kind of like that, just cooler, designed for people to move on and not ugly.
Yes. I mean, I think that there's a couple spots in the gym where we could look at something like that little corner spot.
I don't want it in.
You're talking about something that can move, that can be taken off almost?
Yeah, you can lift it. Put it on
The actual, that platform.
Bar.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
super cool. I don't want it in the gym though. I don't trust kids with it.
Yeah, it'd be tough, but there could be something. Okay.
It is much more manageable than Travis's foam pit descending floor.
His like Mortal Kombat descending arena. Yeah.
Onto the pit. Yeah. I mean, I think that the pit cover, the Cirque du Soleil descending, pit cover would be cool. I still think so, because
we all think it would be cool.
The issue is real estate is so expensive, especially, I don't know, like, I feel like parkour gyms at this one point, at least in the US, went through this period of time where they could get away with getting massive amounts of square feet. With inflation going up and the economy in okay space, maybe now, I mean, I guess, I don't know, if you're in like a city that is post-industrial, Pennsylvania or something like that, and you guys are just sitting around a bunch of awesome brick warehouse space, there you can just get, that space, and like Walmart or Amazon hasn't tried to take it yet, or some like hipster co-working place hasn't decided to refurbish it yet, then maybe, you can get away with that, or
It's hard enough to find like a brick in Fort Collins, I feel like.
very hard.
There's like 4 buildings.
The only brick I know in Fort Collins was given to us
I
yesterday,
know.
and ceremonially as part of the
Yeah, I mean, all of
groundbreaking.
like Old Town is brick, but they want to charge you
Yeah, it's all office space,
far
right?
too much for it, and the ceilings are all 7 feet tall because apparently people were small back then.
Or just
smaller than us.
littler.
It's
And
like,
they just
Jesus.
they got away with it, you know. I blame the Spanish flu.
I guess, yeah.
You know, so the
Kill all tall people.
a lot of time what happens is you guys need to recognize is that your city has a character that's an architectural character. And lots of times if your city was used to be industrial and it was an older city, say cities where there was a ton of work done in the 1800s or early 1900s, you're going to have a lot of brick in places. And that's abundant for you. But you don't realize that when you go into cities like in different parts of the US that have grown in the last 50 years, they just don't have as much of that. Also, if your city had a growth spurt in the 60s, you're going to have a ton of really cool concrete.
Yep.
A lot of your schools are going to be built that way. Your government buildings are built that way. And you're going to have really cool places to train. But as they build new buildings, they're not usually training friendly because the materials have become...
Let's just be honest, they suck. They're drywall, plaster, and
aluminum.
Yeah, they suck.
Sharp aluminum, drywall, just stuff you can't train on. They didn't build that with the intention of stopping people from doing parkour on it. It's just that so happened that the materials changed, they got cheaper, and hopefully we come back to seeing some of these more natural materials again. So I'd say for me, I really like the little setups where you can do a few strides and change elevation. So almost like the mini Fevela type stories, but
like you want multiple varying levels of platforms.
You
want varying levels of platforms,
cascading platforms,
right?
Yeah.
Because I think that what can be done there is you can run up to them and you can plyo up them and you can stick different levels of precisions, and then if there's a little bar behind them, you can work on the shaperies to them, and I think that can be super entertaining and satisfying, and be pretty sustainable over time. Not a huge level of effort for that. Sure. So I like things like that. But Justin, I do agree sometimes that just having a platform you can kind of stand on is a good setup.
And we don't really know yet what we'll have in the new gym.
We don't. You
but
got
it's gonna
ideas?
Be crazy.
If people have ideas, if they're like, I went one time and trained on this, and this was the most amazing feature, just send it to us. We'll throw it in, or we won't.
Maybe.
Well, maybe we'll throw it in. Yeah, but we'll definitely look at it.
There is the potential.
We know that there's a lot that we don't know,
mm-hmm.
and as a result of that, we love learning about things we don't know.
Right.
So if you're like, yeah, I found this one spot in this small rural town in Russia,
mm-hmm.
and look, they built a parkour park because some crazy old dude was just like, I'm gonna build a parkour park for 3 kids, and it's the coolest place you've ever been. You take a picture, you send it, we will absolutely look at it.
Yeah, the amount of like Soviet art done by concrete, such cool.
In fact, some of the early parkour videos are just concrete apartment buildings that have half crumbled,
mm-hmm.
and they're climbing in there.
I'm gonna make the argument that we wouldn't have parkour as we know it if it wasn't for that sort of that brutalism.
War?
Yeah, from the Cold War, right? Because
I don't know about Cold War, but World War certainly.
Well, World War, yeah, World War because it leveled everything.
It
and then you
why parkour took so long to become named and practiced officially. Because if you're doing it in nature, I feel like it's just people are just gonna assume it's more like natural monkey business. But when it got urban, it feels like it had a different, a strictly different personality and aesthetic to it. Because it's in homes or it's in streets or on streets and in buildings where it shouldn't be. And I feel like maybe that was what it was waiting for. It needed urban environments, and it needed concrete, and it needed walls. It's just stuff that wasn't designed for, or humans weren't moving on before it had a name applied to it.
Yeah. Seeing humanity on its environment at the deepest level, I think is very parkour. And the reason that you wouldn't see it that way is because you did need city structures for that. Now I could imagine in the past that there was maybe a group of just on Aladdin or something like that, where you've just got these smaller dense
street thieves.
Yes, right. Riff raff, right, and whatever the song is that that Aladdin sings during that intro. I was upset about the most recent Aladdin because they had such an opportunity to make the parkour better. Yeah, I was like, what? Why didn't you?
The intro wasn't. There was the first scene.
There were
That
stunts.
wasn't too bad. Yeah.
They could have killed it.
They could have done it like the Prince of Persia one with Jake Gyllenhaal.
I just watched
Right?
that one.
That one actually had
I haven't seen it yet.
Because actually David Bell was on. Did consultation with Jake Gyllenhaal
Really?
for the stunt work.
Oh, I need to watch.
Yeah, it was actually
it
was really good. I mean, the movie was like, yeah, it's alright.
Yeah.
The movie was alright.
Okay.
But again, like Justin, I don't watch movies to like be told like some complex story. Like I can make that up in my head. I just want to be entertained.
Yep.
So that's why like movies like John Wick are enjoyable for me, because I'm just like, I just want to watch a dude just mowing through impossible situations because I know that it can't happen.
Yeah.
And I don't need to be told this can't actually happen. Disclaimer: this is what it's actually like. I don't care about that. I know that.
What was the
give me crazy?
What's the one that the store guys did about a year ago? Something 6. What?
6 Underground.
Six Underground.
Yeah.
So would you say that it's on the level of 6 Underground?
I actually haven't watched.
No, 6 Underground is probably one of the more realistic parkour scenes because he did parkour in it.
Yes.
And he did strides. Right, you've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay, so that one I think is without wires. It looked like too.
There was the down prees on the I-beams or those pillars at the end were with wires, but the one that was the sort of strides in the alley across those beams, that one was not done with wire. That was actually done by the store guys.
Yeah, it's tough when you watch like Disney movies and Marvel movies because they do stuff and there's the jump and you know the jump is real, and then he goes an extra 5 feet and you know that he's on wires. Like it's always so frustrating to see that because we just have people who can do the things that you are trying to get them to do without the wires. And so 6 Underground was the first movie I saw where he did do things and I was like, oh, he did it without a wire. That's a real parkour line right there.
Yeah.
Well, like shout out to like Sebastian Foucan in the Casino Royale because he does that crane jump without wires.
Yes.
They just have a net underneath him, and the cranes are.
Which is forget about that one.
But I actually think that
incredible.
So when I met Sebastian in Boulder, he was down there. Ryan invited him out. Sebastian, for you guys, is accredited as being the founder of free running, but is one of the founders of parkour. He's in that group of David Bell, Yamakaze, those guys, old school guys. And he was did the Bond film and chase scenes in it. But I think Casino Royale. But I don't think he did that jump. Like I think I remember him being frustrated in a testing that they actually had a stuntman do that specific jump. I think you can double check, but I think he did all the stunts.
Certain because
doesn't he have a video where he walks through it?
Well, and there's like people who work on the set who are like, yeah, and Sebastian, came in and did this and did it without wires, and there was only a net underneath. So I think
they did a lot of stuff for that, but that big crane jump, I'm pretty sure I remember him being really frustrated and saying, I wanted to do the jump, and they wouldn't let me do the jump. So
I swear he did it. But
we'll get to the bottom of this.
Yes, for sure.
Fact checking now.
But that shouldn't take from it because he did all the other stuff in there, and he chased around James Bond.
Stuntman did it. That's insane too. The fact that anybody did that, it's pretty nuts.
And so I think that the other thing that bothers me with wire work is like when you have like fight scenes where it's obvious like someone's clenched up and they're just getting like their legs kind of flare out, and they're just it's obvious they have a wire on them, and you're just like, if you're gonna do it, make it like I don't mind the ones where they pull to get the extra rotation. Yeah, those look really cool. But when it just looks like someone's like swinging around on a set with a wire tied to their waist and they're flailing, that's not as enjoyable. Or when they do some untrained person is on a cliff and they somehow manage the one arm climb up to save themselves while holding someone else with their other hand, and their shoulders are like symmetrical, but their hips somehow lift up above them as they come up. No, actually hanging from one hand for any amount of time is really hard. Especially for somebody who's untrained, when they grab someone's wrist.
They swing them up.
I mean, you've got to be Gandalf, right?
Yeah, he was a wizard. So.
Makes sense. That works.
Sense. They have a reason.
School kid.
Reason is magic. Yeah.
Not the wizard. Doesn't work. So, I like those. I don't know how that got into.
That was quite the tangent we went on.
Yeah, I blame you guys.
Let's get to our topic then, since we're talking about all sorts of like crazy stuff and the things that you can do.
Let's imagine you did that, then the day after.
What do you do the day after? What do you do after the scene of Casino Royale? And they're like, hey man, enjoy your day off. What do you do?
After Casino Royale, that's a month off for me.
So here we go. we start off with rest days aren't always just a day, and it's okay. And ultimately, what matters most in your movement practice is that you're happy. And if that means sometimes that you do a week with no training, don't let anybody shame you in that you're like, yo, you haven't just your 3 training sessions this week, like, you fat, lazy slob.
Right.
If you're happy, give them the bird.
Yeah.
Just like, whatever, you're happy. That's what matters the most.
Do you run into that a lot? I feel like it's like a stigma.
I give it to myself.
Oh, you do it to
So I'm
yourself.
giving myself the
Okay,
bird.
all right, I like it.
It's been a week.
The honesty.
I haven't done any training, And this is often when I'm like sitting there and I'm like in a Discord server, like playing Spellbreak with like friends, and I'm like, I should probably be working out instead of playing games right now. But I'm happy. But I'm happy right now, And there's always, tomorrow that you can catch a workout. I'm not saying you just continually justify it by being like, yeah, I've had 2 years of a rest day. At some point you got to reflect on it. But yeah, like rest is different for everybody, right? In terms of the length of time. Sometimes people need a day. Sometimes people need multiple days. That's okay.
Yeah, when I had a full-time gig and was doing gym stuff, when I was working for software companies and working in Silicon Valley, it was weird. I would go trips and I would have to plan, like people plan their meals, like bros and bro science plan their meals. I did that before too, where I just show up at a spot and buy gallons of milk or something like that. Dude, going to like the South and getting not good quality milk during that time was rough. I remember one time I just had like a dinner as like whole milk and frog legs. It was pretty rough. So it was around. Sorry.
Like King Super's whole milk?
Worse.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure it was Walmart whole milk.
Oh. Yeah.
People are like, hey, I bought Walmart
King
whole
Supers
milk.
has like organic grass-fed milk.
These guys
You're talking
are
about,
not
like, the branded?
Yeah.
fancy
Generic.
bougie milk. This was like, milk that was maybe taken from the schools because they didn't want it or something like that. Oh, it was bad. Anyway, but I had to get those calories in those times. So I had that mindset of that's what I had to do to be happy, and I would have to plan in my training sessions. So when I knew I was traveling for whatever reason, sometimes it was really nice places like Toronto and Vancouver, and that was awesome. But if I was going to a place, I'd have to like Google where the gyms were around there, and then like know where my training sessions were going to be. Or go outside and train parkour, but there wasn't like a swamp or something like that. That was not great. And I found that I knew that if I didn't get a serious session in within like 3 days, that I would be depressed. So I was like, my mindset was, if I'm depressed, it's because I'm not training, and I had to lean on training really hard to not be depressed, which is positive. Like if you're depressed all of the time and then you find training and then you're happy, that's good, but understand that's kind of a linchpin short-term solution, right?
Yeah.
If you can't be happy when you're not training, and for us, we're so used to saying I train and that makes me happy and I'm healthy and that's awesome. I think a lot of people are probably thinking that's good, but if that's all you have.
Yeah, if that's all you have, then that's a different topic. But
rest day.
But
But I think that's important because that's the reason people won't take rest days, because they have to.
Yeah, in that case, you got some other issues that you got to unpack.
Yeah, I would say it's probably 50% of parkour athletes, but
It's
fine.
I've never had this issue.
Really?
Where I felt like I had
Justin's
to.
never had that issue. I can tell you that.
I'll rest all day. I'll rest on your days.
I'll rest for you.
Rest on rest.
I've never had the FOMO that I feel like is what most athletes are struggling with when they don't take rest days. Like, I don't know if they're just watching other people land tricks that they want, or they're just feeling like they have to work 3 times harder than everybody else to land newer tricks and to stamp their name on the history of whatever sport they're doing. But I've always struggled to realize why you have to work so hard to do that. My rest days, I will rest as long as I need to until I feel like I need to train. And sometimes that is a week, or sometimes it's 2 weeks. Because if I have a day where I train when I'm not supposed to, I'll have a headache for 3 days. So.
Oh yes, you get physical repercussions.
So I have to know that when I'm coming out or when I'm done resting, that when I start training, that I won't have effects that last. Really
so
long.
what do you do in between those days?
Just play video games.
I mean, I honestly am it's
I'm pretty sure he just plays video games and like makes stuff in SketchUp.
So would I
do gym designs? You just play video games?
No, I can't. No, when I have the same like days where I can't train, I can't play video games either or watch TV because that'll just double down on
because it's neurological.
Yeah. So my rest days, and I always get the biggest flack, is just my warm up. Like my warm up will be my training sometimes, and I don't call it a warm up anymore. I just call it training. So when I do stretches, then I do kicks, then I do like my like what everyone else does for warm ups. It really just feels like I'm training. Mm-hmm. It just feels like that stuff that makes me happy. And when I'm done doing my warm up for an hour or 2 hours, Sean and Taylor, I'm talking about you guys,
because they'll make fun of your.
I feel really good after those, and I don't actually need any more after that. So sometimes the warm up is all I need to feel good and to feel like I've trained and done something. So I don't need to do a double or or a new parkour or a PR broad jump after my warm up. So those are usually my rest days. And then I also found out that being in the pool is a really good rest day.
Pool.
Yeah. Okay. Like I just doing sprints in the water is actually really fun, and I feel the resistance on the in areas like even like my fingers and my wrist when I'm going through the water that I need for handstand and stuff. So and I also like doing stretches and kicks in the pool. So those are my like rest training days.
So you're active during your rest days, and that because I think your warm up that you do on your rest days is for some people what they may actually do in a like a calisthenics session if they're completely new to it, right? Or for somebody who isn't an athlete 9 times out of 10, they're like, but they know that they need to move. They do these kinds of things.
Yeah, if I do those workouts out in public, people don't think I'm warming up.
They think you're doing some workout. Yeah, exactly.
I would argue though that to do those subtly with finesse and keep them sort of like just playful and not super intense enough that it would still allow your body to recover afterwards, that's a competence. Because I just think that people train like new fighters. They just go brawl. They're like, hey, went to the gym today. Or just brawl. Or you're on the other spectrum where it's like you feel any discomfort and you stop and go home, and that's not training. That's giving up.
Yeah.
But to be competent enough
just
to understand that
misaligned expectation
for what you're doing.
Yeah.
All right.
What your rest days look like?
Here, you just got something fancy.
I did, right?
I need to.
I know. But Justin tried it. I love that. I got those compression, inflatable compression pants. We need a freaking affiliate link if we're gonna keep talking about these things. But I put those things on, and they actually improve recovery. I noticed that for me, something that matters is the quality of recovery. Like I can if I go hard and I feel like I accomplished something and achieved something and I had a really good training session that maybe was, a really good session training on obstacles, and now my feet are sore and tender, or if I feel good during the recovery process where it's like I feel very satisfied. It's like when you have a big meal and afterwards you're like guilty and proud.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Never been guilty proud before.
I get that way from eating all the time. I'm like, yeah, I eat all that. I feel dirty, right? So I have that like feeling where I eat a ton of food or something, like around Thanksgiving or just like weekends, and where I eat a bunch of food, and then afterwards I'm like, yeah, I'm proud I made that dish and then ate it all. But then I feel bad because I'm like, oh, I ate a lot of food. So there's that. If I train really hard in a session and I don't come in with an injury, I'm not talking about something that's so reckless that I come out, because sometimes in the past I feel proud if I banged up my ankle or something I couldn't walk by. But I had that grit mindset, right? Yeah,
I eat that big jump and I didn't quit.
That's because I'm a badass. That's why I busted my arm up or my wrist up or something. Not that mentality, but like the I danced with the devil a bit there. I trained really hard. I felt just like really invigorated after that session, but I felt smoked. Fine. But then I also know that I can't do that every day, and very few people can. And if you do, you're really spending your like longevity cards.
Yeah.
Straight up.
That's a big count.
So I prefer, to be honest, like something like a 3-day cycle where maybe I'm either training like 3 days potentially in a row on some project or getting something done, and that's like moderate to high intensity, and then I'm just like the week off, right? where I'm just doing recovery stuff, or I'm training intensely on one day and then I have the third day I do it again, right? So I have my recovery day in case anything went wrong, right? Like maybe I had some inflammation or irritated something. This is hypersensitive, you guys. You don't have to do it this way, but this is just my optimal way at the macro.
Yep.
I have a super hardcore session. The next day I wait and I'm just generally active and engaged and happy. I watch comedy. I do things that make me feel good. And then I just kind of keep an eye on my body and see if I piss anything off the day prior. The day after that is my DOMS day, delayed onset muscle soreness day. And everything's going to hurt that day anyway. So that's when I actually like to do more stuff with heat. Like I like the hot tub on those days. I like sunny walks. I like dry saunas and rolling around in blankets or something. I don't know. Those are good days for DOMS, and massage is a really good day on DOMS too, because I like to loosen up there. Then the day after that would be my next training day if I was going to increase, like if I was going to manage frequency like that, minimum that. So then I have that sweet spot between the third day after and the fifth day after that I think is pretty good. Getting close to 5 leaves me really 4 or 5 gives me optimal for like jumping fresh. If I'm like, you know how you feel when you're like, ooh, I am recovered. Ooh, I am a little spicy. I think, you know what? You know, testosterone's firing and I'm recovered, but I'm not too far away from my last workout that the stimulus is sort of disassociated. I'm not groggy. That day 4 or 5 for me is like awesome for going and trying a new jump, trying to get in a really like hard session, and then going back through that recovery process. Like that's how I would manage it at a regular cadence. And on my off days, I'm just making sure that my mind is really engaged. I do play video games. Maybe not as much the day right after, but definitely that DOMS day is a great video games day. Like soak, massage, DOMS, video game rotation.
Because your brain too, you know, like muscle tissue sometimes, they just get a lot of blood flow. But a lot of the times, your brain is like, we're good. I'm ready. Right? Your CNS is ready to go again, but you feel super sore. Right? And so that would be like a great way where sometimes this is especially true for younger athletes, where they train, they know they need to rest, but they're so antsy, right? I like video games because they're mentally engaging in a way that doesn't make you feel like you're necessarily missing out on something. And that can engage your brain in a way that it'll let your body recover, right? Obviously, again, like we said, the recovery is different for everybody. So, you know, maybe for you, the best thing is on a DOMS day to go out and, you know, go for a jog, do some stretches, something like that. And that's always a good thing. But for some people, they're like, no, like I know that if I go out and I go for a jog and I do some stretches, I'm going to start jumping on stuff. I'm going to start hitting big stuff. So I got to like out of sight, out of mind. And they kind of have to, you know, do something else to engage them. And I think. Yeah,
I think that we introduced like a double week calendar, like an actual calendar, not like, you know, it's different like the Mayans had, but for us, it'll be like a movement calendar where it like actually schedules in rest days. So you have like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, DOMS day. And then on that day is your recovery day. And you said something on blood flow, Jesse. Like that for me on my DOMS days are where my big focus is how do I get blood flow to the parts of my body that have been working the most. So like shins and ankles or wrists and extremities, you know, those sort of things are my focus. So that's why I'm talking about like hot tub. And if you can't like sit in the shower, Epsom salt bath, like on DOMS days, I'm trying to get stuff, even though massage doesn't feel the best on DOMS days. Like,
I think that's great.
Really? Oh, I always get like.
Well, this was the discussion we had earlier.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Back in the day when we talked about like pain. Yes. Justin's a fan of pain and massage.
Soreness, man. It just feels so good.
It feels so good.
Being sore is amazing.
I try. I just can't be touched.
And there's just like there's a difference because like sometimes if I'm super sore, you know, like you guys know I have that long freaking staircase in my house to go upstairs, right? And I hate it because I always be like, oh, I need a glass of water downstairs, and then I come upstairs and I'm like, I grabbed my phone, but I didn't grab my glass of water. So when I'm sore, I'm like, no, like right, each step, and of course, like, you know, the Clark thing is you never take the stairs one at a time, and so I'm always taking them 2 at a time, and my butt's just like, no.
Yeah. Dude.
But I don't like that part necessarily. I do like get some enjoyment, some masochistic enjoyment there.
Mm-hmm.
But the real enjoyment is when I lay down and Carly and I are watching something on Netflix, and she's just like on the couch, just like driving her heel into like my hamstring, and I'm like, like, that's the enjoyment.
Oh, wow. Like, yeah, no.
Like, that's my massage there.
That's your massage.
You know?
Yeah. That And you guys,
That's
I
in
don't.
recovery.
I like there's like some sort of sweet endorphin spot that I can't tell if it's immediately the day after or it's like that third day after, where anything just feels amazing. Any touch feels amazing. That's the one I like. The right on Dom's days, I'm like, no, just I don't need a massage therapist. Put me in the hot tub. Let's loosen stuff up and just soak. And then on the other, probably the day after that is when I really like it. So I think the other thing is like do you guys have a routine that you go to? I mean, I think a lot of people really do feel like they have to train every single day and that they're only getting better when they're doing that. And some of the wisdom is in understanding your body and its performance. We didn't talk about like hydration and like when you recover, these a lot of times these are big eating days for me where I'm eating lots of fat. Like my carb days I have heavy carb days on my training days. Those carbs are higher, and you might think, oh, you don't want that because you're trying to like lose weight or get fit or whatever from the day. Different priorities. But I prefer the carb days on the workout days, and I'm a little heavier on fat.
Well, fat and protein, right?
Yep.
Those are your building days, right? If you hit a hard training session and then the next couple of days you're not eating anything, you've done damage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where you got to be eating some steaks or some pea protein if you're vegetarian. Sorry, I'm not vegetarian.
If you're vegetarian, if you're vegan, you got to sit down with the biggest trough of pea protein and a spoon, and you start chewing on that dust, bro.
Go to town.
Chew on that dust.
Just chew on it. I'm gonna sit next to you and eat a medallion fillet.
I've never liked steaks. Steaks
no, you're not a steak guy.
No.
Come to my house. Dude, I'll cook a steak.
I think
for
it's
you.
because I just had a very undercooked steak and it was just.
Oh, you got trauma.
It got
steak trauma.
Like half of it was down here and the other half was still up here, and I didn't know which way I was supposed to go with.
Like you were gonna choke.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so it was at my girlfriend's house at the time, and her dad had just butchered this cow or whatever, so I couldn't choke on it, but it was stuck here and here, and so I think after that moment, I'm just like, this is not the food for me. It's not. Which way do you go? You're supposed to cough it up, or you're supposed to keep chewing it?
If you're at your girlfriend's house, you swallow it.
That's the option I went for. It was like 10 minutes of me sweating and like no emotion, chewing, swallow, and whew. I feel the heat of the moment just thinking about it now. So there is trauma there. I feel like
Dude, that's why like, you know, steak fajitas, like they have it solved, right? Because they take the steak, they cook it, and then they chop it up for you. And then they just throw it in with all sorts of veggies and some rice and some beans, and like, oh, you're good, you're ready to go. You know, you don't have to worry about the freaking.
You just need to cut your I think this is just a general eating habit problem for you, which is not chewing and inhaling food, right?
Oh yeah.
Like you just inhale food, but I will like cut that little steak up into little slices and rub it in the sauce, and maybe there's some taters on the side.
Yeah,
it's
I
good.
can see that.
Yeah, so nutrition's a big thing on recovery days too.
Enjoy eating. Like that's a day you want to pursue something. These type A always have to be improving.
Recovery days should be. You should enjoy them. They should be fun and fulfilling, and
go eat your medicine.
If you're having rest days and you're uncomfortable, anxious, and stressed out on those days, you haven't found the enjoyment in resting.
I think it goes back to like you maybe connect too much of your happiness and self-identity with your performance.
Yeah,
it's not your training. Because somebody who's connected their identity or their happiness to their training knows that rest days are part of their training, right? And they also know that there's so much more to them as a person than this one tiny sliver of their athletic life, right? And if you're on a rest day and you're not happy and you're like, I feel like depressed and sad, it's because you connect too much of your identity and happiness to that performance. Mm-hmm. And so, maybe the way you balance that out is like, that's when you take your partner or spouse to a nice dinner on your rest day, and you celebrate each other, and you celebrate yourself, you celebrate your accomplishments, and you order a steak.
I think that's the best advice, mostly because of the steak. No, I'm just kidding. I think that's the best advice because one of the things is if you don't feel good yourself, you know, I'm not saying you're a selfish jerk, but if you want to just check that to be sure, on your rest days, make them about other people. Like
Yeah.
if you're training and you're constantly about yourself and how your advancement is and what goals you're hitting and stuff like that, cool. If you're on a rest day or if you're injured, just go do stuff for other people. Like the time when you'd be like, hey, I want to go do this thing, but I've also got to be able to train when we go there, so we can't go to this place, you know, or whatever. Just go with and just be there and be with other people selflessly. Be present, right? I think that's a great idea if you're feeling like you need some more intention on a rest day.
Yeah.
But I think the real reason is judgment. I think that people are like, they have this idea, and we got this idea that they are they have to live up to certain expectations or a standard of what their movement is, or they see their friends training and they're just not getting those constant like gains as far as accomplishments, achievements unlocked. You know, I think that people think that when you do parkour, if you're not doing things at like, you know, the world-class level, you should be good at something, but you should also enjoy what you do. So you got to find out what your world-class thing is. Like, I think everybody should have a world-class thing, but that world-class thing might be, you know, it might be video games. We talk about that a lot, but it also just might be your job. It might be music. It might be engineering. It might be something you're amazing at, and then you can try and bring that into your movement or move around it, or not have to at all. You pursue world-class something that you know you're good at. That's great.
Yeah.
And
I think photography is one that is very closely tied with parkour and videography and photography. Because then again, you're focusing on other people and you're creating content, and you have results of what you're doing that can be really easily valued and appreciated. So
yeah, I think that's a great example, because a lot of times, you know, I'm working and I have to let go of that too, which is why I play a lot of video games. Is I'm on my rest days, I'm working on the brand. Like this morning, I was super excited. I woke up at like 7:30, which is pretty early for me, probably about 45 minutes early for me. And I'm an adult. Adults are like, what? I'm like, yeah. No, I took my 23andMe test, and they said 8:05 was when I should get up.
That's
so
what it said genetically. Don't get me started.
Seriously.
Don't get me started on the early morning topic.
So anyway, that was the 23andMe survey results, probably not true genetics. But I get up, I'm like, man, I'm gonna work on the brand, and work on Outrun, and double down on Outrun. And for me, that helps everybody, because it helps our students, our coaches, our partners. And that's, to me, I'm not saying it's a completely selfless act by any means, but it's like I can get up and like type up some like brief for our designers or the architect, or answer questions with quality and intention and care that normally would have just been like a businessy check mark thing. But I geek out on that, because that's what I like to do. And maybe you on your rest days are designing a gym or doing like, you know, sprints in a pool or something, which I think is still probably a little bit of training, but jog in the pool maybe? I don't know.
it's just this.
Oh, that thing? Okay. Yeah.
Standing sprints, your legs aren't doing anything.
Oh, I hear just like, but they're just
No,
like,
his legs are crossed like that in the pool, and he's like swimming that way.
Just in the bottom. That's
Yeah,
like,
but I
back
think
to training again. If you're like holding your breath at the bottom of the pool, just like
oh
it's
yeah,
probably
no,
training.
you ain't gonna get like tie a rock to me and sprint on the bottom of the pool.
Mm.
That's not even close to what I'm doing.
Yeah. Let's not. Definitely on your day off, you don't need to be watching 2.5 hours of like YouTube training hype videos.
I was gonna say, so
Yes.
another thing too is like on your rest days, a lot of parkour athletes, because it's the thing that they love, they dive back into parkour, right? And they're watching videos, and that stimulus can be beneficial. Like sometimes I'll watch those videos before I train, or like I'll have music in or something like that, and I'm watching some videos while I'm doing my like stretches and stuff, because I do want to kind of get that like, you know, that stimulus. I want to get amped up a little bit. I want my nervous system to both visually see what I kind of want to achieve, and then of course I'm doing my warm-up movements that are, you know, similar to that to get me there. But on a rest day, I don't want to touch parkour content outside of like, you know, business stuff. Like I don't want to watch like hype crazy videos, because then I know that I'm like, oh, that
you get your
looks
nervous
like
system
fun.
all like fired up. You're like,
Right?
oh, I gotta be thinking, I gotta do it.
Yeah. So that's actually that's a huge tip, that like sometimes on your rest days, maybe you just need to disconnect for a bit, and again, find some intention that maybe focus on somebody else, or something else that's not related to parkour, and that'll help you get the most out of your rest days.
Have some diversity in what you like. Oh my goodness, it would help you so much. I love those. Like we always like home. What's the other one? And then design. Like I love design for that reason, because I can make it so general. I can think about my house. I can think about whatever. And sometimes it benefits me to know that when I go into parkour projects like the gym. but I also just love to look at design. And
Yeah.
man, that I can just get some warm fuzzies. Just get a blanket.
Yeah,
and a
like
hot
when you see a
cocoa.
well-designed like business. Homes I really like because obviously I have one.
Oh, but
I see a well-designed like business on like Pinterest, I'm like, that's so
cool.
That's so cool.
So we're
And that
talking
makes me so happy.
specifically about on Apple TV. There's a show that Justin shared with me called Home,
Oh.
and it's all about home. It's been all home so far, right? Has it ever changed?
It is.
No, because that one guy in Chicago had business/home integrated, right?
I think it was more about sustainable homes and like more pushing the boundaries of what a home meant. Because there was one guy who basically had like a home inside of a home, but the outer shell home was all nature, right?
That's right, yeah.
And another lady built it completely out of bamboo, and it was like in the trees. Oh, it was like a castle made out of bamboo. It was ridiculous. So they were each a theme that were there was just something like far more about a home than just being a building that was constructed. It was philosophized.
It was grown.
You start
Sometimes
grown, yeah. It's like you start to understand what you like. Like I watch these things and I start to understand. There is somebody who does like a more like earthy style home, and there's somebody who does refurbished stuff in the city, and there's somebody who builds something in like Copenhagen where the design is so abstract and human and interesting. That's cool. Or there's somebody who does something with a castle. And you start saying, oh, the castle video is cool, but I really identify with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's learning about yourself. And when you can do that, you understand what your tastes are. That's very gratifying. Mm-hmm. That takes time. So I love design for that. I also like the design show that's just called Design on Netflix that goes over different, like there's episodes on like typography. They had the guy who was the Nike shoe designer.
Oh, yeah.
He's really cool.
Yeah.
They have another guy from Detroit who did like the 300 for Chrysler. Then they had a gal out of New York who ran a design firm that did a ton of the typography that influences our lives and talking about typography. And just you understand these different tastes you can have and things. There's so much. Like if you ever sit there and you're like, I don't know what I like, it's like then you just need to take a step back and get some variety in. Mm-hmm. You may just be judging yourself too hard or not getting enough exposure because there's so much cool stuff. I just look at it and I get sick because I know how long I'm going to live at best, and then I'm like, I will not even be able to sample from the palette that is humanity and its endeavors.
Absolutely, like a fear of mine.
Yeah,
is that I'm just not going to live long enough to experience all the things that I see out there. That's so cool, right? And I think we've talked about this before too. That like meeting somebody who's clearly so passionate about their thing excites me about that thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
Like somebody's like, oh yeah, so that constellation there is, that, and it's named because of this and that. And I'm like, wow, this person really knows astronomy. That's so cool. And then I'm like, I want to learn astronomy. And then I'm like, I'm digging into it in my free time. And then I'm like, wait a second. I'm not going to be an astronomer. I don't need to dive in. I'm like looking at like, $300 astronomy courses. Like that's me on my rest days. It's like, oh, where's these other cool things that I can experience,
Totally.
It's
and
so
I'm like,
true.
wait, no, I don't need to buy a $300 astronomy course and a $500 telescope. Okay, I can just enjoy this passively as a bystander. But that makes rest days so much easier for me when I can find other things that interest me, or I already have predetermined interests that I just go to, and I explore those things and I stay in those things, and then I come back once I feel like how you were saying, I'm ready to train again. I'm feeling the urge to go jump on stuff or move, then I go and I do that. That being said, I do want to say though that if you're training and you have a purpose, a goal, then setting a schedule for your training matters, right? Like for all of us right now, we're in a bit of a phase where we're just enjoying our movement. Maybe we have specific goals, but we're not hard chasing them, right? All of us are just kind of enjoying the moment right now. And that's the phase we're in. And we'll come back to it where we are training specifically for a goal. But if you're training specifically for something, you do need to set a schedule. And the first week or two may be kind of a pain for you, but your body will adapt to that, right? So if you're doing
acclimation.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday training schedule, right? And we're saying here now that you need 2 or 3 days of rest day for power sessions. That's not necessarily true.
It's contextual.
It's contextual, and you do want to do a little bit of overreaching in your goal-based training. So, stick to your schedule, but make sure that if you're doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, and Thursday, are you doing some casual stretches, getting some blood flow, and shoving good quality food down your gullet, right? Like, that's what those days matter so much if you're on a goal-focused phase.
Exactly.
That being said, I just didn't want people thinking like, oh, well, in order to be a great athlete, you don't set any schedule. It's just based on how you feel.
It's based on how you feel.
There's a
intuitive training is a real thing, but it requires such a level of discipline.
And experience.
Yeah. So in the beginning, you may need to train every day so that you know what training is really like. We're going to contradict ourselves left and right, but I agree. We should now do the opposite episode of like what it's like to actually train hard, because this episode makes it sound like super soft.
Like we're just bougie, like sipping our bread.
Super soft. I mean, there's truth to that.
That is me.
Yeah, but that's not always been that way.
No, but it's not. But
I've lived the other way.
Yeah,
I've lived the other life. But
so
right
maybe
now,
one episode we'll talk about the hardest we've trained.
I like it.
And what we got from it, just so that people balance it out a little bit.
All right, team.
Man, that was a relaxing episode.
Let's relax. Let's go get some breve.
Let's go get some coffee, guys.
Let's groove to some music. Maybe.
I got video games to play. I'm gonna bring that massage thing over to your house.
Oh, okay.
And let you try it today.
Nice.
Yeah. Guys, just go rest. Like I feel like your mind might have been a little stressed from the podcast. It's a lot of listening. It's an hour of listening to us.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. As always, we are on YouTube as well as on Spotify, Apple Music, and wherever you get your podcasts. So if you want to see our pretty faces, tune in on YouTube. You can see our pretty faces. If you don't want to see our pretty faces because you want to do other stuff while you're listening, that's cool too. And in which case, if you're watching us on YouTube, you can catch us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts from, because there's a million different options. But thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it, and we will catch you next time.
Peace.